always say time changes things. But you actually have to change them yourself. We know that the future never stops. Moving so fast, even mobility itself can't keep up. This is to the trailblazers. The ones who not only shift gears, but perspectives. The few who are ready to own the future right now and inspire a better tomorrow. Together with you, we want to be the change we want to see. For us, e-mobility is more than just a trend. Sustainability, more than just a buzzword. We know that these are the solution. This is why we didn't wait but make a leap. With our future-proof battery systems, we're going to ensure the mobility of the future. Engineered to perform and last in our high-quality testing and production facilities. Whatever the future brings, we're going to be one step ahead, as it is embedded in our automotive DNA for more than 90 years. We create future-proof mobility for everybody, today and tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and a warm welcome to the second Webasto Webcast. I'm Petra Bindel and I'm pleased to be the host today. Many of you know Webasto as a market leader for roof and heating systems, but since 2017, the company has also been active in the electromobility sector, offering customized and standardized batteries. Our inspiration drives the world of mobility is the vision of the Webasto Group that is worldwide among the top 100 automotive suppliers. Today in our webcast, we want to talk about how services can expand future mobility. Challenges in the field of electromobility services will be highlighted and possible solutions discussed with various experts who are joining me here in this studio. We would be very happy if you could actively ask your questions and start an exchange with our expert team. Therefore, we've set up a chat module on the right-hand side of the live image where you can type your questions. We will try to answer as many of them as possible live during our show. I can promise you a very informative and interactive program, and we start the webcast with a little survey. And to take part in the survey, please click the link in our chat module. The question is, from where are you attending the Webasto Webcast? As long as the music is playing, you have time to answer. I see we have people from all over the world. It's great to have you join us. And I know Heike Niehus, Executive Vice President at Webasto Customized Solutions, would have loved to join our show today. As this unfortunately is not possible, we are very pleased that she sent us a video greeting.
Hi, my name is Heike Niehus. Welcome to our webcast from Webasto Customized Solutions. We are happy that you join us to really learn, discuss, and go into the insights of how services can expand the future of mobility. Join us and discuss with our experts, learn, and really take the most out of it. Only together we can shape the future. I'm really sorry not to be here, but I'm really looking forward to the results and your insights, which we then can take together to develop the future. Thank you very much and have fun.
Thank you, Heike, for this video greeting. Our first guest on stage is highly committed in building bridges between academia and practice. He has been working for years on how to transform product-centric companies into service-centric ones. For his research, he has received numerous awards, and I'm happy to welcome now the Professor and Chair of Service Management at the Catholic University Eichstätt-Ingolstadt, Jens Hogreve. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Jens, tell us, why should a company concern itself with the topic of service?
Oh, well, it's a difficult and long story. I hope we will have the 60 minutes filled with that. But let me start with an objective quote of a business leader we all know. And Henry Ford already said in the past that a business absolutely devoted to service will have only one worry about profits, and they will be embarrassingly large. And everything is in that quote. So multiple companies will venture into new opportunities by adding services to their core product base. And in our research, we find that these companies will be more successful on the long run and actually increase their revenues and profits. And the question is, why is that? So we could such say, well, there are services we maybe gave for free in the past, and why should this increase our revenue and profits? It is by services, you have the opportunity to learn more about your customers. It's actually getting you closer to your customer base. And that is a secret of success in the service business. Let me share some insights of some specific studies or studied different companies and even ourselves did in the past. So there's a very recent, it just came out last week, McKinsey study that found out that service growth is actually the lever of success. And what they found out is that in this specific case, in the healthcare industry, that the percentage point by which services grow over product sales, so if you sell more services compared to the products, that has a correlation of 50%. So it will be tremendously more successful on that behalf, on that domain. And again, that is because it's getting you closer to your customers. So companies that sell high quality products like Webasto with batteries or other companies that produce forklifts or other types of very qualitative products maybe sell these several times to their customers, and then there's silence between the customer and the provider. And we need to break that silence by offering services, and that will be a success. And let me share some results of a recent study we did together with colleagues from numerous universities. And there, in different talks with C-level executives, found out that, for example, take on the right-hand side the X-ray equipment as an example, they found out, well, there are 160 annual unit sales. That is a business, of course, but there's an installed base of 7,000 X-ray machines. And where would you put your business on? And it's definitively on the installed base, getting to know your customers and getting information about future innovations.
I know, Jens, you work with many different companies in terms of customer service orientations. Are there any showcase companies that others can learn from?
Yeah, there are indeed multiple companies that start their transformation into services. So that's what we need to understand. It's transforming an organization, transforming a product-centric business. Some of them did quite well, others failed. Well, I would like to share an example where it worked quite well. And that comes from the airline industry. So Rolls-Royce aircraft, Rolls-Royce motors actually faced a situation where saturated market exists, and by the way, who actually wants to buy those engines and those machines? So they are sat together with their customers and discussed, so what is actually the pain point? What is the solution we need to provide to you? And they figured out what the customers wanted to have is reducing ground time so that the planes are in the air and not at the airport. And that's why they developed a business model that's called Power by the Hour. So we don't sell or buy engines anymore, we buy access to engines and to mobility. And that's where they had a huge success in the past. And as you can see on the numbers, their service business went up to 60% by now. And in 2019, that's the last numbers we have before the Corona crisis. It's a 40% increase of the revenues underlying services or based on services. And as you see here, that's a tremendous increase we observe. But more importantly, it's not only about numbers. I said before, you get to know your customers better, you get closer to your customers, and that also shows in the numbers. So I brought some survey results here. So for example, what they found out is that their customers are not only more successful, they found out that their business increases, that they grew together with their partner, partnering in that relationship. They have an improved business performance, see that impressive number, 92% of the customers. And it is not only because of a stronger or better reliability or increased reliability, increased availability of the engines, it's also because of secured cost and the value for money they provide. And that's a secret to and of success, getting closer with your customers, becoming a customer-centric and service-centric company.
Tell us, what are the secrets of successful service implementation?
A very important one is that you do it right. It's with everything in life. So you will become successful if you do it right. And that's a very important aspect. Some companies just do services while the others do services. They follow their competitors. We call this a laissez-faire approach, and that doesn't work because then maybe the leadership team does not support services, or the culture is not right to do services. That's a very important aspect. What you need to do is to transform your culture and your company towards the customer, becoming more customer-centric. And that is a difficult journey, to be honest. That cannot be overnight. So you need to be open, and especially the leadership team needs to back up that strategy. That's really important that we found out in our different studies. So that's the one aspect. And the other, and that comes together or goes together with that specific cultural change, you need to talk to your sales force. So it's very difficult to sell services because you cannot put them into a shelf or put a price tag on it. So they're just not visible. They are not tangible. It's easy to sell a car. You can put it in your garage and be proud of that car. But what do you do about services? So you need to talk to your sales force and make them more open, selling services, solutions, and being a gatekeeper or an idea fisher to the customer, that you become even more successful in the future.
So there is time for one more question, Jens. What is the future of services in the automotive sector? How will mobility change, and what's next?
Yeah, that's a huge question. Again, try to do it very short. I would say there's a lot of opportunities in the digital world. So we will see what, for example, the metaverse will make to all the services and supporting employees and customers. But when we get closer to the charging and battery business, I would say forming experiences around the charging situation, for example, would be a very important one. So thinking about the experience a customer has. And Audi just opened a charging hub in Nuremberg at the fair, at the Nuremberg fair, and they combine the annoying charging situation with an experience that is of high quality, and that will be one of the future secrets of service success.
So thank you very much, Jens, for this interesting insight. And yeah, we see each other again in our final Q&A. For now, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Our next guest is a passionate engineer with over 10 years experience working with electric vehicles. That includes 7 years of management consulting in America, Asia, and Europe. His passion focuses on the electrification of the transport sector, both at vehicle and system level. Voltage and power are the basis for decent performance, and performance is also what Dr. Philipp Rose is all about when he plays basketball or runs. He is the manager of Automotive's Electrification at Strategy and part of the PwC network.
Strategy And is the only at-scale strategy business inside a global professional services network. We bring hands-on experience of building advantages right into strategy, empowering bold new ideas and ensuring a stronger, surer path to success right from the start. Strategy And. Strategy made real.
In his presentation, Philipp will give us some market insights and show business opportunities with services around battery technology from a regularity point of view, as a perspective from new kids on the block, and also from the point of view of manufacturers and suppliers. And now I'd like to welcome Philipp Rose, who is connecting with us live from Berlin. Hi, Philipp, over to you.
Hello, Petra. Good to see you, and thank you very much for the kind introduction. And it's great to be here, so thank you also for the invitation. Just following up the storyline of this webcast, I think it was quite interesting to see from Professor Horgreve how services actually play a vital role in different industries and will also play a more interesting role in the automotive industry. So I think now the question remains, what is actually the potential for batteries and batteries in mobility? And this is what I would like to focus a little more in the next couple of minutes with the, I think it was 3 or 4 slides that I provided for this webcast. So if we just look into recent news in the automotive industry, we will see that there is actually everyone focusing more on battery electric mobility. So different players are positioning themselves, and we will see, and this is just shown on the very first slide of this presentation, that, for instance, Daimler just announced that they were actually switching from being electric first to being electric only, meaning they're fully focused on electrified and battery electric passenger cars and also vans going forward. However, the passenger car industry is only one industry that is about to be electrified in the future. We also saw recently some announcements of Traton and also Fraunhofer industry that also sees some advantages of battery electric trucks over even hydrogen trucks. So it seems like even in the more heavier and more commercial application on the roads, battery electric powertrains will be a huge part and play a huge part in the future. And eventually, and that is what is indicated with the last press clipping, it's not only about on-road vehicles, but also commercial off-road vehicles are getting even more electrified with what I find quite interesting, an excavator that has about 26 ton, who's electrified by a large battery pack here by Caterpillar themselves. So what is of interest is that a trend that will just come quite accelerated, or will it be a trend that actually has some time? And I think these questions can be answered quite from another perspective, and that is a regulatory. Just so basically the European Union and most of the other global industries actually decided to minimize CO2 emissions by powertrains, and hence there is a regulatory force that even drives those trends of batteries even further. And what we have just done in a recent study, and that is what is shown on the next slide, is to try to get an understanding of current political discussions about CO2 emission and emission standards on actually the market diffusion on battery electric vehicles. So what you would see over here is 3 different scenarios, with the middle scenario, the currently most likely scenario from a politics perspective that we call Fit for 55. And it shows quite interestingly the amount of fleet emissions here indicated with an orange line and the correlation of the diffusion of electrified powertrains. So that is what is shown here in sort of a pinkish color into the market. So with these kind of regulations, there is no way out to electrified powertrain portfolios. And then a question that currently is in discussion, has been in discussion for the last couple of years, is on how far regulation even slows the transition by relaxing those vehicle fleet targets. So that will be a scenario that is shown here on the left-hand side, where we would see actually a little less of a market diffusion of electrified powertrains, or if we would see an even accelerated regulatory force already discussing to achieve almost zero emission by 2030 with newly sold vehicles, that would then even accelerate the transition. So obviously this one has a huge impact, not only on the companies that are announcing new product portfolios, but across the whole industry in Europe, and basically builds up a whole new industry. And what I just brought with me on the very next page is an overview about a new industry that is just about to grow in Europe, which is the industry of battery production, not only of battery cells, but also on the different system manufacturers and system suppliers that help grow this industry. What is quite interesting is with all these transitions that we just discussed in the previous minutes, there's actually a huge implication on building these batteries and manufacturing these batteries to make this transition actually work. And what we see is that there will be over 14 to 15 battery gigafactories actually in operation already by 2025. And it's a steep growing curve. So we will see more than double an amount of gigafactories being online by 2030 already to really fulfill this demand that is ongoing and driving both by regulatory efforts, but also by the company themselves, which are really changing their product portfolio. And as we were just citing interesting studies, we also recently published a study that had a look into what is actually the value potential of new battery electric powertrains. And it turns out that the value add on the powertrain level is actually increasing from about 70 billion that we have as of today in 2019, 2020 in Europe, with mostly internal combustion engines, to beyond 100 billion euros in 2035, meaning there's a growth potential with switching into electric, and only the battery of this powertrain will have about the same amount of value add as the whole powertrain industry actually has of today. So there's a huge value potential only in the product, not even talking about services. Now, I think the fundament is here for these new technologies and batteries, and it will come into the market. And as we just discussed previously, services might be an interesting field to actually build upon. So the question remains, what could be interesting services for batteries? And that's also where we made up our minds and tried to sketch out what are potential profit pools in addition to conventional profit pools that we know from the past. And that is the very last slide that I would like to share with you, where we just see that along the usage and product life cycle that is initially only yielded in terms of profits by the pre-usage, so basically by the manufacturing and sales of vehicles, what is shown here as number 1 and number 2, is about to be increased over the whole life cycle of these products throughout usage time, but also at the end of the life cycle when it comes to potential second life or even scrap and recycling applications. There is actually some impact of these zero emission vehicles or battery electric vehicles along different stages, and then different levers of additional profit pools. Let me just maybe point out 2 in here that I think are of really much of interest. If we talk about usage of electric vehicles, and it was already mentioned, the charging experience, I think the access to infrastructure, which is shown here as number 4, is one that is really interesting when we think about services. So there's actually a whole new energy to be supplied through these kind of vehicles, meaning that there's an additional service potential to have actually the energy and power supply managed through a service for the end user. So there's things like vehicle to grid and grid to vehicle applications that are already in place and will even play a bigger role the more we get cycle stability of batteries on a higher level. And the second one, and that is just within the next bucket, number 5, is the topic of finance and leasing, which gets even more important as the residual risk of the value add of a vehicle really comes into play with new technologies. So we really see that things like pay-per-use or also usage-based financing will play a larger role to really take people the risk of these new technologies and provide them with services so they can actually use these vehicles in the usage time almost as they are used to have their internal combustion engines. So I think there's more potential services to talk about. However, with limited time, I would keep it with this one. And I'm really happy to hand over back to Petra, and I'm looking forward for some more questions for the discussion.
Thanks for your inspiring presentation, and we still have time for a short Q&A session, Philip. And now we start with the first question. Will electrification continue to accelerate in the future?
Well, Petra, I think it's an excellent question. I mean, we have been seeing the three scenarios. So the actually a little slower scenario, the current plan of record, and then the accelerated scenario. And what I actually see is that the news continue to spread the media about even more industries focusing electrification. Just as of today, there were some announcement of Maersk, which is one of the large sea freight and air freight transportation companies. And they even bought, I think it was beyond 100 electrified trucks. So even this industry that is not really connected to being electrified quite soon accelerated their efforts. So I really think that the acceleration of electrification will continue to play a role. However, I think there's also risks that we would see with current conflicts going on and with the question of resources. There will be certainly one that will shape the decade.
Now we have two more questions. The next one is, do you see a battery bubble in Europe?
Well, as of now, there was some media news, I think the end of last year, that there's a chance for a battery bubble. What we currently see is that a lot of investment actually gets into this steep growing market that we just saw. And the question will remain if the installed capacity can actually keep up with demand and if there's a certain similarity in getting up with the market. And I think we don't necessarily see a bubble in battery production. As I already mentioned, there is additional industries such as the heavy commercial vehicle industry that is also accelerating the electrification. So I think the demand is still ever increasing. However, there's obviously a lot of players actually getting into the market, and the question will remain if we will see a lot of players also in the future, or if there will be some consolidation happening by the mid of this decade.
So, last question for now, before our final Q&A. Do you consider that combustion engines will disappear?
That is a very tough question. I think there's some emotions attached also to it. So let me try to keep it quite short. I think they will continue to exist, especially in some operations such as air and maritime. However, I don't see a huge future for internal combustion engines on road freight traffic.
So thank you very much for now. See you later in our final Q&A, Philip.
Thank you.
Yes, and we will concentrate on service requirements and possible solutions from a customer's perspective now. And therefore, I'm happy to welcome the Head of Development Airport Technology at Goldwater, Martin Rieser.
Hello, Petra.
And from Webasto, Dr. Lena Beckmann, Head of Product Management Battery. And Kai Baunacher, Product Manager Battery Services.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. So I want to start with you, Martin. Can you briefly describe what your company does and what services you were looking for when you started on the road of electrification?
Yes, of course. At Goldwater, we have two business divisions. We have on the one side the transport technology and on the other side the airport technology. These are two different business units, but we have many commonalities together. And on the transport division, we are specialists for heavy-duty transport applications. For example, we have there trailers, semi-trailers, but also very heavy modules where we can move loads up to 10,000 tons and even more. And the other division is the airport technology, where I'm the head of the development. And there we have cargo tractors, where we move trailers on the airport, but these cargo tractors are also used in industrial applications. We have tow bar tractors. These tow bar tractors have a tow bar between the aircraft and the tractor. And with this, we are able to move aircrafts on the airports. We are all around the world in every market. And we have tow barless tractors. These are tractors which grab the nose wheel of an aircraft, lift it, and these tractors are able to move very fast with this aircraft up to 20 miles per hour. Goldwater has more than 30 years of experience with electric tractors, hybrid tractors. And we have seen that in the last few years, the market was much more dynamic than the 25 years before. And we have intensivated our R&D expenses for electric-driven machines. And our focus was especially on the development of drivetrains, which are able to substitute diesel applications. So our machines are made for real substitute applications, and this is what is very beneficial for our customers, that they can use our tractors with the right charging strategy, like they use today their classical tractors. And for us, the battery is a very important component. For us, it's the key component of an electric machine. It's the most expensive part of such an electric machine, and it's very deeply integrated in the whole machine. So thermal management, software, and everywhere in the system. And so to answer your question, for what have we searched at the beginning of the electrification, when we made the design of our latest electric tractors, we did not search for just for a battery supplier. We searched for a long-term partnership with a battery manufacturer. It's because of the importance of this key component.
Could you elaborate on your experience with Webasto and how they've helped you with their services?
Yes. We had a very intensive cooperation with Webasto. I think we joined in this project in an early phase of the battery development. And my engineers and our whole engineering team had always a very good contact to the Webasto engineers, and they get the access to the Webasto specialists. And what was very important for us was that Webasto heard on our requirements. So we brought our requirements from the market, from our experience to Webasto, and Webasto was interested in it and has implemented many of this. One example that I have is we had a very challenging requirement for Webasto because it was not on their roadmap. It was a special charging standard for Asia, and this was not on the roadmap, but it was very important for us because we have there a big market and we are building there a bigger fleet. And so Webasto was so flexible to implement this standard in their system and helped us there with our tractors. One other thing beside the development, more on the service side, was that Webasto was so flexible to organize the service and spare parts in our markets there in Asia where our fleets are. And this was very, very helpful for our electrification projects.
So Kai, let us know, what support is Martin referring to?
So I would like to pick up one statement you just made. It's the partnership. I think for us, what's really important is that we do not see our customers as the classical customers where we just deliver products to. We really live this partnership. So we have multiple projects, multiple customers in different industries, and we have decided to go 360 degrees. So that means that we really take our customer by hand and really go the electrification journey together with them step by step. So as an example, with Goldwater, what we did is we made a simulation at the really beginning of the project to understand the application of Goldwater here a little bit better, and really to find the best fit, how we could integrate our products into the application. Furthermore, what we do offer to all of our customers is that we have a dedicated team for each of our customers who would like to go electrified, independent of the knowledge, size of the company, and so on and so forth. We really support them when they have any kind of questions to really help them electrifying their vehicles. Last but not least, I would like to give another example is the Guaranty Plus, what we offer. So we offer an individualized Guaranty Plus to our customers, really making sure that we listen to them and their use cases, what they have. And I think that's what's really special when working together in such partnerships, that we really try to focus on the customer's use cases, really try to understand what they're looking for, and then in the future also looking for new possibilities and services and going that way.
Mm-hmm. How, Lena, is Webasto preparing for future services?
Yeah, we have a lot of preparation ongoing, and at the moment we are in intense discussions with our customers. And here I'm not only talking about existing customers like Goldwater, for example, but as well with potential customers. And we're looking at all customer segments here. So not only ground support equipment, but as well, for example, construction equipment manufacturers. And here I have a good example because we established a kind of round table together with the construction equipment manufacturers and with the end users, so which would be the building companies here. And this is because we really want to understand not only the needs of our direct customers, but as well of the end users of our products here. And this is because what Kai already mentioned, we see our projects always as partnerships with the customers, and where both parties can learn from each other and find the best solutions possible. And maybe to add, what we are additionally doing is not only focusing at the moment on the battery services, but as well on the other products Webasto is offering. So I would talk here about the overall energy management, so speaking about battery thermal management, and the charging topics. But on top of that as well for our classical products. So this could be heating and cooling to have a really 360 degree services.
Yes. I come back to you, Martin. What type of services would you like to see in the future?
Yes, for us as Goldwater, we do not want to sell just electric tractors. Even for us as a manufacturer for these tractors, we are also creating business models around vehicles. And for example, or one example is that we are also developing a vehicle performance management system for our customers. When they're with this, they can optimize their fleet. They can optimize their charging strategy. And yes, this is very, very helpful for them to get an efficient operation of these electric tractors. And for us, from our customer perspective as an OEM, interesting service that Webasto could give us is possibility for a pay-per-use for a battery or battery leasing, or maybe also the permission to use the battery for vehicle-to-grid systems. So because we see a big problem on our airport market that the power lines are too small for the airports, and we are limited with electric vehicles because of the limited power. But with vehicle-to-grid concepts, even in the airport, we are sure that we could extend the range or the numbers of electric vehicles in the airports.
Martin, what services are in demand from your customers, and how can a battery supplier like Webasto support them? Do you have an example?
Yes, and we are faced with the situation that many of our customers doesn't have the experience with electric tractors. Some of them have electric 80-volt systems, so they have cargo tractors or forklifts, but they have no idea how they have to operate an electric fleet with high voltage battery system, lithium-ion batteries, and how can they use these tractors like a diesel-driven one or a tractor with a combustion engine. And it's our goal to make a consulting to our customers, and this starts already before we sell the tractor to the customer, and we accompany the customer during the implementation, and if the customer wants, also during the usage. And what is there very important to know is in the moment everybody knows that electric drivetrains are more expensive than conventional ones. They are significant more expensive. But the TCO costs are also significant less. And so we see that we can offer very competitive tractors to the customers. And for the customers there, it's important that they can do a TCO calculation, and we help them with this. And for this, it's very important that we build the trust at the customer side, that they trust our vehicles. And I told in the beginning that the battery is the most important, expensive part of such a tractor. So the customer has to trust us that the battery lasts for the lifetime that we have expected, and there helps a lifetime simulation. And this can Webasto offer to us. What also helps to build this trust at the customer side is are the quality standards from such a battery system. When we can say, okay, we use a battery which is built with automotive standards, which is built under automotive conditions, which is built under in a clean room with robots, and like we see it on the Webasto system, it's easier to build this trust at the customer side. And if all of them is not enough, then it's also helpful that we can get a guarantee from Webasto, so that we do not have to take the risk from the battery for the battery life, so that we can get this package from Webasto. This helps us.
Yeah, to wrap up, I would like to direct a question to all of you. And the question is, what challenges and possibilities do you see for services in the future? Kai, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I would name the first challenge is for sure what we heard earlier is that we have to understand the end customer's needs as well. So I think a big challenge will be that we bring together the different stakeholders to one table, really understanding what our customers need, but what the end users actually need. I think today this is a first format like that, bringing different stakeholders together. So this will be for sure a challenge. However, there are still opportunities, of course, as we already heard. A couple of them, like a vehicle to the grid, is of course something where we will have a look at in the future as well. But we have to be aware that for commercial vehicles, it's of course a little bit different than for passenger vehicles, where we also provide our customized batteries. Another topic, I think, is also partnerships, where we have to see what kind of partnerships do we need in the future to build out the service concept for our customers and really making sure that they get provided the service they need. And there's, of course, many more, but due to time, I probably cannot mention all of them.
Lena, would you like to add something?
Yes, of course. So for me, the biggest challenge for us as Webasto is really the transition from being a hardware-focused company to becoming a really solution provider. So not only having the products at hand, but as well the full solution, including the services. Because what we heard today from Jens as well is that offering and selling services is completely different than selling hardware products. You need the mindset, the culture, and as well the processes behind. And we are working really hard on this transition to have, for example, the processes and the knowledge and the mindset behind to be able to offer these kind of services. When it comes to the chances, I would like to mention the digital services we are preparing to offer. So this means that we create additional value around the data we collect with the products, for example, the batteries. And I think there are really interesting opportunities here we could tackle, where we could benefit, but especially the customers.
Martin?
Yes, from my side, it's very clear what's my biggest expectation for services in the future. It's, we know that our machines, they last for decades. And I think I speak here also for other OEMs. It's not only Goldwater, which is building tractors which last for 20 years and longer. And we know that under an efficient use, the end of life of the battery system will be earlier than the end of life of the usage of the machine. And so the expectation that I have is that we get a backwards compatible battery system that we can implement in these machines. And yes, to get back to my first answer, where I highlighted the partnership. I think it's very important, because I think in this partnership, Goldwater and Webasto, or Goldwater and the battery manufacturer, has the responsibility to keep these machines alive. If we deliver now a machine with a battery which is not available in 10 or 12 or 15 years, I think we made a mistake. It was not the right job, and this is our responsibility to find their solutions, to keep these machines in the system, to keep them alive for decades.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Lena and Kai, for this interesting talk. And now I would like to ask Jens and Philip to join us again for the final Q&A. At this point, I would like to thank all of our online guests who sent us many interesting questions today. And I would like to start with a question. It's addressed to Martin. How can Goldwater help their customers to operate electric machines?
Yeah, interesting question. So I said already that we make a consulting with the customers before they get their tractors, when they get it, and during the usage. But it's also very important that we train the people who are using these tractors, that we are training the workshops, the guys from the service. I think this is very important that the people feel comfortable with the systems, that they are not in a fear when they see an orange cable on such an electric car. We have to teach them and yes, take them by the hand to explain them how the technology works. And what we see on the customers which have already such machines, when they are positive and when they see the powerness of the tractors, they are happy, and yes, and it works.
So, do we have other questions? Dilara, do we have other questions? Yeah, I see. The next question is for you, Jens. Are there any challenges firms have to overcome when they consider starting the service transformation?
Well, that's a huge question. So we just heard that there's a lot of talk about culture, so that we actually need to change the people we have and we need to work with. And that's the first challenge, I would say. That's even the most important one. So we learned over years that the product is key in those companies. And yeah, there's a mind shift, as you said before, that services might be the future of multiple companies. So it's important that service are not a necessary evil in those companies. It will be the future to survive. Another important aspect that we see in our studies too is the pricing of services. So as I said before, so we have this intangible something, and how can you put a price tag on it? And in the past, a lot of companies made a huge mistake. So they said, well, I give you the car or the truck or that machine, and the services are for free, just a negotiation standard that you used in the past. But how can you, so the customer learned that, so it's for free, and why should the customer pay for these services? So it's a huge effort to also live or do that transition of the customer from a free to fee approach again. And that's another challenge we observe for multiple companies.
I see the next question is for you, Lena. Okay. How can services around battery systems improve the environmental and social footprint of automotive electrification? Is sustainability a metric Webasto cares about?
Okay, so maybe to start with the second part of the question, the sustainability. And yes, this is absolutely an important topic for Webasto. And I can only give an example around our battery production here in Schierling in Germany. And here we only use green energy to produce our batteries. So we installed a photovoltaic solution on the rooftop, and we use this produced energy for the overall production of the batteries. And of course, the sun is not shining all the time in Bavaria. And if so the energy is not enough for that, we have a complete Green Deal contract with our energy provider there. So yes, it's really, really important. And to come to the first part of the question, which we're referring to the services around the battery, and to help here to having a better or good footprint. So we're working on that as well. So one big example would be second life solutions for our battery, which we could offer, for example, as a service as well. We are developing here a lot of services, and we're trying that out for ourselves. And here's another example. So we are planning to have a second life solution as well for our plants, where we use all the batteries as a kind of energy buffer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the next question is for you, Philip, in Berlin. So how important will become the knowledge or capability of battery recycling for manufacturers considering the EU Green Deal and general sustainability goals?
Yeah, thank you, Petra. I think it will be one of the key things to consider for many battery manufacturers as well. Here, I think the regulatory forces are actually thinking about having certain amount of recycling percentages of batteries enforced actually by regulation. So there's not really any choice to whether or not recycle batteries, but there will be some standards that are set so that we actually get the closed loop. And this is also a part of being sustainable with this technology, closed, so that this closed loop actually works. So I think there's actually also a huge business potential in all the recycling of batteries, because these materials again will play a major role in the upcoming years from a supply chain perspective, but also from getting raw materials back from recycled products.
I come back to Jens. Jens, does service growth require new organizational structures or designs?
Yeah, definitively. So, and again, it depends. So where you are in your service transition strategy, a very important aspect is that you break down the silos between the different divisions, because service management is about operations, is marketing, is HR. So we cannot think in these standard silos or pillars or however you would name it. And that's the first important aspect, that you learn that you need interdisciplinary teams to set up services. And a lot of companies that start delving into services begin with an own company, and then they forget, oh, well, they need to talk to the others. They need to know about the product. And that's an issue. So the best solution at the end is something like a hybrid solution, where you have these service experts and maybe sales force that share that burden of selling, or fully integrate your services in a business unit. But you always need to speak to all the others and listen to the others, and especially to the sales force and the sales team that is at the front.
So the next question is again for you, Lena. Is service something what is given for free to the customer, or is it a customer also willing to pay for certain service levels?
Oh, this is a really interesting question, because what we heard before from Jens as well is that in the past, it was most likely to offer the service to the customers for free as an add-on for the product, and then call it support. And definitely some customers are still expecting that. And I think for some of the services behind, it's still the same case. So this is mandatory to offer. Could be additional product training, for example, where we could not get any money back. But on the other hand side, we have a lot of value-adding services to offer, especially the digital ones or additional support ones, where the customers are absolutely willing to pay for it, because it really helps them in their electrification journey.
So I think we have now a question that is the last one, and it's addressed to all of you. Will increased cost of electric power slow down the electrification? Who would like to answer?
I can give an answer.
Yeah.
I think what we see at the moment is that yes, diesel prices are also very high, and they are rising faster than the electrical prices. So I think it's not that only the electrical price will go up. I think what we see at the moment is that the diesel and the gas prices are going even faster. And we see that the savings from our customers with the electrical machines are so high that I'm not nervous when I see this. I'm very sure that this has, at the moment, the effect is more that it accelerates the electrification.
Is there anybody who would like to add something?
Maybe just one more comment, if you allow, in terms of time. I think what is interesting is that with fossil fuel prices, we will actually see some carbon tax on top of this. So carbon fuel prices will not only rise because they are sacred, and there's not that much amount available kind of endlessly as electricity is. So there's a sort of natural increase, but also an increase in terms of CO2 prices. And with electricity, it is actually the exact opposite. So with renewable energies, we see generation costs of about 2 to 3 cents, which is actually way cheaper than gas or coal-produced electricity is. So I expect electricity to be at least stabilizing over time versus fossil fuels to re-raise. So I would totally agree on what was just said with this additional comment.
Yeah, thank you very much to our experts today. It was a pleasure to join you on stage. And dear online viewers, what topic would you like to see in our next Webasto webcast? To get an idea about this, we would like to invite you to take part in a final survey. Remember, in order to participate, please click the link in our chat module now. You can choose between 5 topics, and as long as you listen to it, you have time to answer the question. Thanks so much for letting us know which topic interests you, and the next Webasto webcast is expected to take place in the autumn. We would be very grateful for your feedback. Therefore, please click the link in our chat module. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a nice Thursday afternoon. Goodbye and see you soon.